Okay, problem two. Problem two has two different graphs, and you are just supposed to write the rule. So remember that we are doing y equals mx plus b equations. Both of our equations should be shaped like this. And if I remember, the b is the starting amount. The b is the starting amount. That means it is the number of tiles in figure 0. And we have all year been using the x-axis as the figure number and the y-axis as the tile count. So figure 0 is always right here on the y-axis. So right, we have figure 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then figure -1, and it would keep going down. And so what are the number of tiles on this line according to the y-axis? Well, those tiles are right there. We see the line crosses at this point, and that point is labeled as 32. So I should write 32 for my B number. Some students wrote 16 here. It's very important that you look right at the y-intercept. And then the other thing that we know is M is referring to the increase, or in this case, a decrease in tiles. So when my figure number goes over one figure number, this M value is going to be how much the figure goes up or down by. Now, most students identified that this was going down, so I know it's going to be a negative number. But the question is, how much does it go down? This was the part that stumped a lot of students on the quiz. I noticed that it is going down to this point right here. And so the question is, what is the value of that point? When I look on this number line, I see that this is 16 and this is 32. So I know these squares are not counting by 1. The other thing I know is that this is the y-axis, or the x-axis right here. And so I know the value for that has to be 0 as well. So I see that there are 4 spaces between 0 and 16. And if I do 16 divided into 4 pieces, I know that each piece has to equal 4. So if I was to do a count, it would be 0, 4, and then 8, and then 12, and then 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 plus 4 is 20, and then we have 24, and we have 28. So that means that each of these squares is worth 4. So if I go up 1 square, I'm going up 4. And if I go down 2 squares, if I go down 1 square, I'm also going down 4. But in this one, it goes down 2 squares, and so it should be -2 times the 4 that we're going down each time. I'll make that pink so that it's clear where the 4 came from. -2 times 4, which is equal to -8. So this is going down 8 every time. And a lot of students got this wrong. They either recognized that it was going down 4, but then said it was only going down by 4 once, or they said it was going down by 2, and they just wrote this as a -2. But to be correct, this problem should say y equals -8x plus 32. This other one had a little trick in it too. We know that B has to be this point here, and the information that we give you about that point is that it is the coordinates x is 0 and y is 9. And so what does that tell us about the x, or about the y-axis? It tells me that this point is 9 high. So the y-intercept, where this line crosses the y-axis, is 9 on here. So this should be a 9. There were some students that thought that this should be, or thought that was a decimal. And if you said 0.9, like, that's not actually what this should say, but it's pretty small, and so I gave students, I didn't really mark you that wrong if you said that this was 0.9 instead. I did circle it because it's not the right answer, but I was like, okay, if you were thinking that this was 0.9, then that is exactly what you should put here. And so there is a little bit of a communication error there. I think it's fairly clear that that's a comma, not a period, but it is not 100% clear. So, but you can see a different period right there, and they don't look the same. So I didn't care as much about that and thought, you know what, if you know that that should be 0.9, if that says 0.9, then good for you. So that was partial credit. The M comes from whenever the y-intercept or whenever the tile figure number increases by 1, how much do the tiles increase? And here we see a growth triangle where when the figure number increases by 1, the tiles increase by 7. So this should be 7. Students who wrote 7 over 1 or for B or negative 8 over 1 for C also got this correct. So your full equation should be y equals 7x plus 9. Most students got this one correct.